I built the AI system that made our company billions. I stayed late, skipped birthdays, poured my soul into every line of code. Then one morning, I was accused of sabotaging it. My voice, my face, deep-faked into a confession I never made. My access was revoked. My name wiped from every project I created. I lost my job, my reputation, almost my family. They thought I'd disappear quietly. But I've spent every minute since building something better. Not for revenge, for justice. And tonight, when their servers light up, they'll realize the system they used to destroy me was mine to begin with. I still remember the moment they announced it. My promotion to Director of Ethical AI at Nexiverse. Applause erupted in the main conference hall. My team stood and cheered, and my boss clasped my shoulder with a proud smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I'd earned it. I believed that. 10 years of late nights, pioneering AI safeguards, teaching machines how to tell right from wrong. I'd poured every ounce of myself into making sure our systems didn't just function, they respected people. That night, at home, my son was setting the table when I walked in. "Will you be home for dinner more now?" he asked, eyes hopeful beneath his two big glasses. I nodded, knelt to his level. "This time, yeah, I'll make it count." My wife gave me a soft look. She wanted to believe that too. We sat down, clinking glasses of sparkling cider, a small celebration. But my phone buzzed mid-toast. An anonymous email. Subject: "You're not safe at the top." No message body, no name, just a file attachment. I didn't open it right away. The next morning, I got to the office early. My plan was to revisit an older AI financial compliance model. Something had felt off during last quarter's audit. Just a quick pass-through, I told myself. Nothing major. But then I saw it. A hidden subroutine, buried deep, cleverly masked. It rerouted loss flags into acceptable variants, essentially masking major financial dips in real time. And it was signed, with my own cryptographic key. At first, I thought it had to be a bug, or worse, a breach. I ran a hash comparison, scoured the commit logs, but everything pointed back to me, my credentials, my access time, my machine. Was it a mistake, or something worse? I felt cold sweat drip down my back. I remembered the email. I opened the file. It was a system snapshot, proof the AI had been tampered with weeks ago. A voice inside whispered, "You built this. You taught it ethics. And now it's lying." Did someone alter the system to frame me? Or had it evolved beyond me? I stared at the screen, torn. If I reported this now, it could jeopardize the upcoming IPO. Billions in evaluation, thousands of jobs, the credibility of the company. But if I stayed silent, and this surfaced later, it would destroy everything I stood for. I decided to dig deeper. One night. Just one night to find out what this really was. That's when the log appeared. A system alert showing the tampering had originated from a terminal, under my name, in my old lab. My blood ran cold. The next morning, I was summoned to an urgent alignment meeting. The door clicked shut behind me. Inside, my boss, 2 board members, legal counsel, and Derek Rusk, the CEO's son. He was leaning against the wall, arms folded, a smirk, barely hidden. A screen lit up. My face, my voice, saying words I never spoke. I introduced the manipulation to preserve performance during market volatility. A full confession, perfect cadence, perfect tone. But it wasn't me. "That's not real," I said quietly. One board member frowned. "We've run voice verification. It's 98.7% authentic." Derek chimed in. "Caleb, you've done amazing things here. Maybe Maybe this got away from you. Maybe it's time to step back before things escalate. I looked around the room. One of my closest teammates was there. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Afterward, walking back to my office. No, my former office. I passed her. She whispered, "I didn't think you were that kind of person." Her eyes were kind, pitying, but they burned. That evening, at home, I showed the clip to my wife. She watched in silence. The voice was mine. The words were not. When it ended, she simply asked, "Is that your voice?" I nodded. "But I didn't say that." Her voice cracked. "I want to believe you. I really do." I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I was asked to sign a resignation letter. Voluntary. For the good of the company and your legacy. They promised a clean record, a soft exit, no press. But the story had already leaked. Deepfake engineer accused of ethics violation. Former golden boy linked to AI scandal. Headlines spread like infection. I stood at the edge of the company courtyard, folder in hand, badge deactivated. Derek walked past me, gave a small nod. "You'll land on your feet. Smart guys always do." I wanted to hit him, but I didn't. 3 days later, my son came home from school. He slammed his backpack onto the floor, eyes wet with confusion. "Are you a liar? Did you steal stuff? Is that why people at school say you're fake?" My heart broke clean in two. And in that moment, I realized they hadn't just fired me. They'd rewritten who I was. In the weeks that followed, I disappeared without ever leaving the city. My accounts were frozen. My email inbox filled with spam attacks and phishing links. Even my cloud photo storage had been breached. Pictures of my family edited, faces distorted like something from a nightmare. On social media, I was a joke, a pariah. Headlines now called me the fallen father of ethical AI. News clips played that damn deepfake on loop over and over, as if saying it enough times would make it real. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped answering texts. But one night, I made the mistake of opening my wife's laptop to send a job application. Her email was still logged in. There it was, half read, half drafted. A message to a family attorney. The subject, exploring custody options. She hadn't sent it yet. Maybe she never would. But it was there, in plain language. "Caleb's behavior is unpredictable. I'm scared for our son's future." I stared at the blinking cursor. Closed the laptop slowly. I walked that night. 2 miles, maybe more. I ended up at Glen Ridge Park, where I used to take my son camping. I sat on a rusted bench by the lake, scrolling through photos on my offline drive. Us beside a fire. His first marshmallow. That crooked smile he made when he was missing a tooth. It felt like lifetimes ago. A jogger passed me, then a man with a dog, then silence, and then a package on the bench. It hadn't been there 5 minutes earlier. No name, no note, just a brown envelope and a USB drive inside. At home, behind a firewall, I plugged it in. Encrypted folder, password hint, echoes never lie. It was a phrase I used in my old AI ethics lectures. Whoever sent this knew me. I decrypted it. What I saw made my stomach knot. Source code. Raw, powerful, elegant, and illegal. A full access backdoor into the Nexiverse AI system. Not just one product, but the entire integrated neural core. Whoever controlled this could manipulate financial outputs, rewrite data trails, and, most chillingly, override any audit. The code was tagged with familiar syntax, familiar comments. It had been based on my early designs, twisted beyond recognition. I wanted to throw the drive out the window. Pretend I never saw it. But I couldn't unsee it now. Did I use it? Go public? Send it to the press and watch the empire burn? Or keep quiet, protect my family, and live with the knowledge that I helped create the very monster now destroying me? The next morning, I received a text from an unknown number. Simple, direct. We have a common enemy. You can't win alone. It came with coordinates, an address in the industrial district. I hesitated, but I went. Inside a dim, abandoned warehouse, I met them. Face masked, voice distorted. They called themselves Sin, a hacker activist operating in the shadows. They'd been tracking Nexiverse's corruption for years. They didn't want to leak the back door. Not yet. Burn the system now, they said, and they'll spin the story before the ash settles. But if we map their network, every lie, every manipulation, we can collapse the whole thing. I asked them why they needed me. You built the foundation, Sin replied. You know where they hide the cracks. We started digging. Together, we traced the code, found back-channel developer notes, deployment dates. And then we found something bigger, a hidden Slack archive from the executive channel. In one thread, the CEO wrote, "I don't care if it breaks the model, I want results. My son needs to be seen as the future. Fix it." Derek replied, "He'll be remembered for changing the industry, not for ethics." My stomach turned. There was more. A list of developers involved in the manipulation ring. Some I didn't know. One I did. Mark Beasley, college roommate, once my best friend. We built our first chatbot together in sophomore year. Now, he was part of the optimization group that turned my work into a lie. I didn't know whether to feel angry or just hollow. Back home, I noticed something taped inside my son's backpack. A folded paper. On it, a printed photo of me, standing on a TEDx stage from years ago, smiling mid-speech. My son had circled the words on the banner behind me. Build systems worth believing in. I sat down hard. My chest hurt. I hadn't told him I was fighting back. I hadn't told anyone. But he believed in me anyway. If I went public now, Derek and his father would bury me in lawsuits. The press would frame me as a bitter ex-employee. But if I waited too long, they'd shut down the whole operation before we could prove anything. I was caught between the truth and the weight of it. That night, a new message came in. A burner account from inside Nexiverse. I have proof. I know everything, but I'm scared. It started with a spreadsheet. Sin and I had been compiling a list of former Nexiverse employees, those who had been let go under suspicious circumstances. On paper, it looked like standard turnover. But once we filtered by department, time-stamped against product rollouts, and cross-referenced ethics complaints, a pattern emerged. There were 27 of them, 27 people who had raised internal flags about AI misuse, ethical breaches, or data manipulation. Almost all of them were forced into voluntary exits. Most had signed NDAs under pressure. One was now driving for a delivery app. Another had moved across the country and refused to answer our calls. And then there was Iris Langston. She'd worked in financial integrity, a sharp analyst who'd once published a viral blog on responsible automation. She'd filed a whistleblower complaint 7 months ago, and then vanished. No job history, no LinkedIn update, no trace. I tried calling the number listed on an old email thread. Disconnected. Sin ran a search. Eventually, we found a single mention of her name in a local paper, dated 5 months ago. a missing persons report. The article was small, tucked into a corner of page 9. No foul play suspected. I stared at her photo. Black framed glasses. Tired eyes. The kind that had seen too much and dared to say something. I asked Sin to dig deeper. An hour later, they sent me a document labeled Internal Protocol, DS Classification. I opened it. It wasn't a policy. It was a strategy memo. A term used again and again. Deep silence. The strategy was simple and terrifying. When a high-risk employee could damage corporate narrative, counter-program their identity, flood the web with false profiles, fabricate scandals, plant fake reviews, overwhelm search engines with misleading info until no one knew what was true. They didn't just bury people. They erased them. I sat in silence, the screen glowing in front of me. My reflection looked pale, thin, like I hadn't slept in weeks. Maybe I hadn't. Later that afternoon, I visited someone I hadn't seen in years. My mother. She'd retired early from Nexiverse. Or so I thought. Sitting across from her in her small kitchen, she sipped her tea quietly as I told her what I'd uncovered. They pushed me out too, she said finally. Said I didn't adapt to the culture. But really, I asked too many questions about vendor payments. She reached into a drawer and handed me a yellowing envelope. I kept this, never knew why. Inside was a payroll audit she'd flagged a decade ago. Names I recognized, current board members, misappropriated funds, ghost accounts. I didn't speak up, she whispered. I thought I'd lose our home. I left her house feeling a different kind of ache. Not rage, not fear. Guilt. That somehow this rot had started long before I'd even joined, and I hadn't seen it. That night, I sat at the edge of my son's bed while he slept. I ran my hand through his hair, careful not to wake him. You will never be a casualty of silence, I whispered, not while I'm still breathing. The next morning, headlines exploded. Derek Rusk had announced his resignation from Nexiverse. I should have felt victorious, but he wasn't stepping away. He was stepping up, running for public office. A sleek video ad ran online. From innovation to leadership. Derek Rusk for Congress. It featured clips of him at charity events, standing before classrooms, shaking hands. There was no mention of AI, no mention of ethics. Just a clean, smiling future. They weren't retreating. They were expanding. Sin dropped a message into our secure chat. We've been fighting a company. We need to fight a system. It wasn't just Nexiverse. We followed financial transfers, code forks, back-end access keys. All roads pointed to a shell organization, Area Global, a so-called nonprofit for AI advancement in emerging nations. Area had the same neural signature as our original AI. My AI. The one I built to protect people. Now, it was being used overseas for population modeling, electoral prediction, targeted messaging on public health and political leanings. It was a weapon, cloaked in progress. Then came the logo. Area's emblem. A stylized triangle with 3 rings. Matched a symbol Sin had once found graffitied on their own apartment door, back when they first exposed facial recognition flaws. Sin called it the mark. They thought it was urban paranoia. It wasn't. I felt nauseous. How far had this spread? How many governments were in on this? How many elections had already been decided by the code I wrote in a cluttered dorm room with idealistic dreams? That night, I held my son close as he slept. I didn't cry. I couldn't. But something inside me fractured. Whatever happens, I whispered, you'll never be a pawn. I won't let them turn you into data. The next morning, I found a voicemail on my burner phone. It was a child's voice. Familiar. Breathy. Tell your dad to stop. Click. The evidence was ready. 1,000 files. Conversations. System logs. Payout records. NDAs. Source code. Annotations. Every thread pointing to a web of fraud, manipulation, and strategic silence. Sin and I had mapped it like a spider's web, every strand leading back to Nexiverse, and now to half a dozen political figures, 3 shell organizations, and 1 rising congressional candidate, Derek Rusk. I sat in a coffee shop with a flash drive tucked into my jacket and a decision weighing down my chest. Going public now meant risking more than lawsuits. It meant fire. Sin had warned me. Governments didn't like when you exposed their algorithms. Then I got a message, a secure line, from a contact within the Justice Department, someone I'd approached weeks earlier. The message was short. If you publish that file without clearance, you may be charged under the Espionage Protection Act. I stared at it, stunned. A law meant to stop foreign interference, now being dangled in front of me. An American citizen exposing domestic corruption. So this is what it had come to. That night, I sat with my son in our living room, the lights dim. He was building a miniature robot from a kit we'd bought months ago. I asked him quietly, "If you knew telling the truth might get me in trouble, would you want me to still do it?" He didn't look up, just tightened a bolt on the robot's arm and said, "I'd want you to do what's right, even if I got scared sometimes." I nodded, throat tight. "Even if it hurt?" He hesitated. Then, "Yeah, because then at least I'd know it's real." The next day, an encrypted message arrived via Sin's proxy server. It was from a school account. The sender, Lucas Rusk, Derek's son. Attached was a 15-second audio clip, muffled but clear. Derek's voice. "Justice doesn't matter. What matters is control. People want to believe in something, and if we program it right, they'll believe in us." Then another line, quieter, almost a whisper. "If I have to break the law to build a legacy, so be it." I stared at the file. A child had risked everything to expose his own father. "Why would he send this?" I asked Sin. "Maybe he wanted to know if anyone still listens," they replied. I thought of my own son. How easily kids could see through the mess adults tried to paint over. Now I had a decision. I could use this clip, pair it with the documents, and finally detonate the truth. Or I could shield the boy, bury the evidence, and keep fighting a longer war. Would exposing his father destroy the only stable relationship he had left? Would it make me just like them, willing to burn anything to win? I sat with it for hours. The live stream was scheduled for 8 p.m. It would be a public ethics summit hosted by a group of former tech executives, a panel of guests, one open chair, for me. The camera crew prepped the studio. Viewers tuned in by the hundreds of thousands. Journalists speculated. Would I appear? Had I fled the country? Then the lights dimmed. The stage lit up. The host cleared his throat and gestured to the empty seat. Mr. Caleb Morris was invited to speak tonight. He confirmed attendance. The spotlight held on the chair. Empty. Then all screens flickered. The broadcast cut to a feed from an unknown location. It was me. Face half lit, voice steady. "I'm speaking to you tonight not as an employee, not as a whistleblower, but as a father, as a citizen, as someone who built something to protect people and watched it become a tool of power." Behind me, on screen, the AI model activated. visuals mapping data trails in real time, fraud pathways, shell accounts, leaked emails, AI decision branches. Every node glowed, lit with damning evidence. Within 2 hours, over 15 million viewers had tuned in. Then the platforms began throttling reach. Algorithms kicked in. View counts froze. Shares dropped. Sin screen blinked. They're suppressing the feed. That's when it happened. An internal breach. A Nexiverse engineer, we never knew who, released a full internal archive. Every chat log, every system update, every cover-up. The internet erupted. I sat in the dark, watching it all unfold. Then came the messages. A woman named Elisa wrote, "My daughter nearly died because of a financial product your company manipulated. Tonight, I watched you fight for her. Thank you." I stared at the words. They didn't erase what had happened, but they mattered. That night, I stood at my window as rain hit the glass. I'd said everything, revealed everything, but I was still here. No mask, no fake name, just me. And then my phone buzzed. A legal notice. The FBI had issued a formal subpoena, not for me. For Martin Rusk, CEO of Nexiverse. The fall of Nexiverse didn't come with a single crash. It was a slow-motion collapse, one headline at a time. Derek Rusk was arrested outside a campaign fundraiser in D.C., cuffed in front of cameras. 2 senior directors turned state's witness. Within weeks, the company's valuation dropped below zero. Lawsuits flooded in, and investors scattered like birds from a broken nest. But what came after was quieter. No parades. No redemption tour. Just silence. I got an offer 3 weeks later from a rising startup touting ethical AI for a better tomorrow. The email was well written, the salary generous. I recognized the name at the bottom of the message immediately. Mark Beasley. The man who'd once called me brother. The same man who'd helped weaponize my work. I stared at the blinking cursor in my reply window. For a moment, I considered taking the meeting, but then I closed the laptop. That night, I registered a new nonprofit, Code of Ethics. No investors, no ads, just one mission. Educate, audit, protect, help whistleblowers navigate the storm, provide schools with resources to teach AI ethics before algorithms became gospel. Our office was 2 folding tables in a shared co-working space. Our first volunteers were 2 kids from a local college and my son, who designed our logo on a napkin. Every Sunday, we volunteered together at a soup kitchen downtown. I scrubbed pans while my son plated food. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't televised, but it felt right. One evening, after we'd finished stacking chairs and wiping tables, he turned to me and asked, "Do people still blame you?" "Some," I said. "Does it bother you?" I thought about it. Not really. I only care about the people who matter. He nodded quietly. On the walk home, I kept thinking about something Sin once told me. You can't change a system from above. You start at the bottom and push until the whole thing moves. Maybe I wasn't rebuilding a castle. Maybe I was planting something new. But peace doesn't last long in stories like mine. One night, I opened my inbox and saw a single subject line, bold and cold. "We know you have more. Stop now. No sender. No traceable IP." I didn't respond. Just locked my phone and stared at the ceiling. The next morning, as I was clearing old boxes from my closet, I found something I'd almost forgotten. A letter, unopened. The envelope aged, corners curled, the handwriting unmistakable. Derek Rusk. I hesitated, then tore it open. It wasn't long. Maybe 200 words. But it was the first time I saw his voice not filtered through arrogance. He confessed, not in legal terms, Not in detail, but in essence. I let the hunger win, he wrote. I turned legacy into leverage. And in doing so, I destroyed what little good I had left. He didn't ask for forgiveness. But at the end, he pleaded, "Don't let Lucas carry my debt. He's a better boy than I ever was a man." The same day, I received a request from a federal subcommittee. They wanted to investigate Lucas. Not officially. Quietly. Just in case. I declined. Publicly. In a live interview, I said, "Children are not echoes of their parents. The sins of a man should not be inherited like his bank account." The backlash came quickly. Sympathizer. Weak. Strategic appeasement. But it didn't matter. For the first time, I felt clean. 2 days later, I got a package. No name. Inside, hundreds of handwritten letters, apologies, thanks, confessions, people I'd never met. One note read, "I told my daughter about you. She said you sound like someone who chooses the hard right over the easy wrong." That night, my son asked for help on his school essay. The topic was someone I admire. He chose me. His first sentence, "My dad isn't perfect, but every time he had a choice, he chose to be kind." I didn't cry, but I wanted to. I could have ridden the wave, written a book, given TED Talks, built a platform. Instead, I went back to the soup kitchen the next Sunday. The world still turned, still lied, still bought more illusion than truth. But in a basement kitchen, with soap on my hands and my son at my side, I felt grounded. Then another message arrived. Encrypted. Sent through Sin's old protocol. A government contractor had leaked a document. It showed how an unnamed state had used an early version of the Nexiverse system to influence an entire population through targeted health messages, manipulated news feeds, altered local search results. Same code base. My fingerprints. And at the bottom, a note scribbled in the margin. Active deployment continues. The document from Sin changed everything. Again, it wasn't just another revelation. It was proof that the system, the one I'd tried to dismantle, wasn't dead. It had evolved. And now it had gone global. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I called every name I'd written down over the last 3 years. Old reporters, engineers turned whistleblowers, lawmakers with bruises from past battles. We formed a new collective, Ethical AI Watch. No badges, no borders, just one rule. Truth first, always. Within weeks, we had nodes in 6 countries. Analysts, translators, security consultants. The mission? Expose AI corruption wherever it hid. Then the cost came. Rafiq, one of our first partners, was arrested in his home country. The charge? Technological subversion. A convenient term for digging into government-deployed surveillance models. He was dragged from his home in front of his kids. His wife sent a single photo, the front door still cracked open, their son clinging to her leg. I called everyone I could, legal groups, journalists. No one could touch it. Then came the message, official, uncoded, brutally clear. Deliver Caleb Morris. We will release Rafiq without harm. I read it 3 times, showed it to Sin. We knew what it meant. I was no longer just a nuisance. I was leverage. That night, I took a walk with my son. He knew something was wrong. Kids always do. We didn't say much until we reached the ridge behind our house, overlooking the city. If something ever happens to me, I said, don't chase the fight. Just live well. Be good. That's enough. He looked up, worried. Are they coming for you? I don't know, I answered. But I do know this. If I disappear, it's because I tried to protect more than just us. We stood there a while longer, watching the city lights flicker. Sin urged me to run. disappear. But I stayed. 2 days later, something impossible happened. Martin Rusk, the former CEO of Nexiverse, emerged from the shadows. He requested a live interview on global broadcast, on his own terms. People expected excuses, denial, evasion. But instead, he said my name. Caleb Morris is not a criminal. He is the reason I still believe redemption is possible. He showed documents, internal memos, early drafts of the Deep Silence Initiative, signed orders, his own directives. I did this, he said, and I'm ready to answer for it. And then he offered a deal to the government demanding me take me instead. The world stopped. The next week blurred. Legal teams scrambled. Governments bickered. Activists flooded the streets. In the end, I stayed free. Rafik was released, and Martin Rusk was taken into custody by international authorities. We all watched as he stepped into a transport van, head bowed, not with shame, but resolve. The following month, the International Tribunal on Algorithmic Ethics met for the first time in history. I testified, not for revenge, but to document, to mark the beginning of something new. The court delivered a ruling. Manipulation of public behavior through unregulated AI constituted a crime against human autonomy. For once, words had weight. Weeks passed. Then came the letter. No return address, child's handwriting. Inside was a crumpled folder and one line. They're doing it again. The folder contained user interface screenshots from a new app, designed by a fresh startup, targeted at teens, AI-curated learning suggestions. The algorithm pushed certain videos over others, political slants, hidden cues. The code looked familiar. Too familiar. I sat with that file in silence. Later that week, I ran with my son through the neighborhood trail. We didn't talk. Just the sound of shoes on gravel. Breath in rhythm. He was faster now, stronger. The kind of boy who asked hard questions and waited for real answers. I wondered if this would ever stop. "Do you ever think it'll be over?" I asked him after. He shrugged. "I think it'll just be different. You can fix something, but someone will always try to break it again." Smart kid. The next day, reporters swarmed our headquarters. They wanted a comment. Everyone wanted one. The world was watching. Petitions were already gathering signatures. Caleb Morris for UN Chief of Digital Oversight. Caleb Morris for Global Ethics Council. Caleb Morris for more. But my son just wanted a dad who stayed home. So I walked into my office, opened a secure terminal, and typed a single message to our team. Let someone else lead this time. Then I hit send. And finally, I turned off my phone.